We got to stop fighting a battle where our enemy is wearing brass knuckles and we're carrying a pillow. It's time to knuckle up.
Richard Ojeda was on MSNBC. Now, if you don't know who Richard Ojeda is, I did a previous video on his announcement for his run for 2020 against Donald Trump as a Democrat. So Richard Ojeda ran in West Virginia's 3rd district, lost to Carol Miller, but made up the most ground out of anybody in the entire country. So he ran in a plus 49 Trump district, lost by only 12 points. Now, you may think that's not good. He lost by 12 points. Yeah, but as I said, he made up the most ground out of anyone in the entire country. Showing you that, I mean, if your aim is to get Trump voters, Richard Ojeda has the potential to get Trump voters. Now, I don't know if that necessarily is the right strategy, but I think he brings a very unique voice to this race for the Democratic nomination that other candidates should learn from. His fight. So I have several clips here to show you, and you are going to see this fight that Richard Ojeda has. So let me play the first one. I'm not sure what order these are in, but let's check them out.
You voted for President Trump in 2016. You were transparent about that. What changed for you in those couple of years where you said, I actually need to run as a Democrat and run against this guy?
Well, I'm a Democrat, period, and I've always been a Democrat. I believe that, the Democratic Party's got to get back to what being a Democrat truly is, and that's taking care of our working class citizens. I stand with unions wholeheartedly, okay? Taking care of our elderly. Let's stop allowing these people to stick their hand in the cookie jars of Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. Let's protect and take care of our sick. Let's offer a non-addictive form of pain management. I'm in the area where we were the lab rats. They threw their Oxycontin and hydrocodone on our people like candy. So how about, a non-addictive form of pain management versus that? And then also, if you're going to, send people to war and break them, then we're going to fix them when they come home. And that's what I've always been about, and that's what being a Democrat's truly about. And that's the way that I'm going to stay.
All right, so this first clip here, Ojeda really lays down what, as he says, being a Democrat is. So he says he's a Democrat, period. And he gets into the issues that the Democratic Party has really moved away from over the past 30 years. So we're talking about the working class, unions, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. And he mentions this here. He doesn't get too specific, but I think I know what he means. Non-addictive pain management. So Ojeda supports legalizing cannabis. So that is a potential answer to pain management. So Ojeda truly does represent the working class. Now, as I've said in previous videos, he hasn't been progressive on every issue, or as progressive as you can be on every issue. So look, Ojeda voted for Donald Trump, or voted for... Well, he did vote for Donald Trump, but he voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary against Hillary Clinton, and then he ended up voting for Donald Trump. That, for many people, is a deal breaker, and I totally get it. But I think because Ojeda was a state senator at the time in West Virginia, I really think he did that for his constituents, which you can argue you shouldn't do that, even if it's for your constituents. But I'm just giving you the context of why he voted, or maybe why he voted for Trump at that time. But since then, he has been attacking Trump nonstop. So he's not by any means a Trump supporter. But getting back to, so Ojeda, as he said here, he is a Democrat. Now, again, there are other issues as well. So healthcare, he's not perfect yet. He doesn't support Medicare for all, or he didn't in his run. But I think he would be open to doing it because he supported Bernie Sanders in the primary. So there are issues here where on a national level, I think Ojeda can improve on and will improve on, because he's no longer just running in his very deep red district in West Virginia. One more thing I want to touch on, as it's on my mind. I've seen multiple posts now about how Ojeda is anti-abortion. I looked up a Guardian article where Ojeda is quoted as saying he can't imagine telling a woman what to do with their own body, and he supports Planned Parenthood, and he supports the Roe v. Wade decision. So he is pro-choice as far as I can tell. So maybe I think there's been a lot of misinformation about Ojeda on that issue, but I'm just letting you know from what I have seen, he is pro-choice. So he's not running anti-abortion. Let me get to the second clip here, where it's just it's more goodness.
I caught a lot of flack because I said I'm sick and tired of hearing that America's the greatest nation because we can whip you. You know, we've got real problems in this country. We have the opioid epidemic. It's just ripped us apart. We have a healthcare system that is absolutely, it's a joke. But a big reason why it's a joke is because the very people that cast votes, the very people that are responsible to try to fix this aren't in that system. They have their own Cadillac health care plan. You know, I guarantee you that if every congressman and every senator and the president of the United States fell into the Affordable Care Act, I guarantee you we'd fix it quickly, because the decisions that they make, they knew would also fall under their own family. So, you know, that's the issues that we have. So
again, as I said, more goodness. This is he starts the clip there, or starts his answer there with saying he got a lot of flack for criticizing America because everyone's like, oh, America's the best country in the world. And he's like, why? Because we can whip you? I mean, this is why Ojeda is so great. There is no filter. He just says what he feels, and what he feels in, I would say, 90% of the cases is completely correct, including this point. So Americans often look at their country as like, yeah, we're the greatest country of all time. But they don't realize they've just been sold on a brand. It's just marketing. It's because they hear it in media all the time, because they hear, you know, whether it's celebrities saying it, whether it's people in news saying it, whether it's politicians saying it, they're inundated with this idea that America's the best, we're the best. But all that has done is kept people in this has kept people closed-minded and haven't been able to open their mind to other countries that are maybe doing things better. Like, for example, healthcare. So I think changing that mindset and being willing to criticize the country and look at it objectively and how we can fix the issues when we look at it objectively, then that is another aspect that I think Ojeda brings to the Democratic primary race that is very needed. Now let's get to the third clip here, which again is more awesomeness.
It's good to see you, sir. I'm wondering, based on what you've seen on the campaign trail in your own home state, a lot of people like you used to vote Democratic, and in the last election, we've seen them swing hard to President Trump and Republicans. What are Democrats doing wrong? Why is that? And what's the disconnect between, you know, blue-collar working folks in America and the Democratic Party?
Well, I love this question, and I will tell you, I've said this quite a few times. The Democratic Party got away from what being a Democrat was. But here's another thing that they do, and the mistake that they've made, is they place it on money. It's about, you got two people running for office, and this guy right here has the most money, and this person here doesn't. But this person here is hungry. They'll knock on every door. They can relate to the people. But the only thing that the Democratic Party was thinking of is, but this person has the most money. So they automatically jump on board with this person. And in the end, the person who doesn't have the most money ends up being drowned out. But then you have the Democrat with the most money running against the Republican that out fundraises him 3-1, and who also gets every commercial on Wheel of Fortune. And in the end, it becomes the lesser of two evil. And that's what we've got. You know, it's always been, well, it's always just the lesser of two evil.
Now, this might be his best answer if it's not for the last clip in this video that I'm going to show you. But this answer here is so good. So he talks about how, I mean, a lot of this for us, if you're watching me and you watch my videos often, this is just obvious. But it's not a message that you hear very often in mainstream press, or especially on MSNBC. So the Democratic Party has, of course, over the last 30 years, chosen money over anything else. So if you're a candidate that has tight connections to wealthy donors, to large corporations, to lobbyists, they pick you. The Democratic Party gets behind that person as opposed to anybody else, because they are all in bed with big money. They're all in bed with the donors, with the lobbyists. There's this whole system built around it. So it's hard to work outside of that, because when you work outside of that, you no longer have the platform that the Democrat with the money has. So as Ojeda said there, oftentimes the person that doesn't have the money but has the boots on the ground, they get drowned out. They get drowned out because the money is all on the one side. Now, sometimes they were able to overcome that, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that had a huge volunteer base behind her, knocked on doors all over her district. But again, that's a race in a district. So when we're talking about statewide races or national races, it's a lot tougher. So Ojeda here, especially because he hasn't had a prominent position in, any position in Congress. He's been a state senator in West Virginia. Because he hasn't had that platform before, it's going to be hard for him to get that platform without the money. And it's good that he's not taking that money. But I'm just saying it's going to be hard for him to get his message out there unless MSNBC and maybe CNN and others continue to have Richard Ojeda on. And Richard Ojeda and his out there style, his willingness to say whatever's on his mind, I think that will get him potentially a lot more press than he would have received otherwise. So I hope this press continues, because it's really going to prop Ojeda up in a way that he needs as somebody who is not taking that corporate donor money. Now, before I get to the next clip, I'd also just want to circle back around to how Ojeda answered that question there. So we talked about how the Democratic Party picks the candidate that has the most money, but also the other part of that equation is that the Republican always has more money, because they are always willing to sell out even more than the Democratic candidate is. And because of that, oftentimes what you see is when you have two candidates propped up by big money, the one that has the most money wins. I think there was a study done, like 90% of the time, the candidate with the most money is the one that wins the race. And that's simply because they're able to put their message out there more, whether it's on television, on radio, through flyers, through the mail. So having money right now is the most important thing. But that is slowly changing. And we're seeing more and more Democrats not taking corporate PAC money. So as long as we see that trend continue, and I think we will see it continue, there is a potential now for a candidate that is taking money, for them to be hurt by that, as people will wake up to the reality that if you're taking money and your candidate and the other candidate isn't, well, the candidate taking money is obviously bought by their donors. So why would I vote for that person? So I think people will wake up to that, and they are already they are aware of that, but they aren't always aware of who the other candidate is in the race if that other candidate isn't taking money. All right. Two more clips here. I think this next one's a short one. Let's check it out.
You're running for president, and as a former military veteran, what do you think of the deployment of U.S. troops on the border by Donald Trump?
I think it was a political stunt. That's exactly what this was. I mean, the whole thing right before the midterms about the caravan. You don't hear about it, do you? It's a political stunt that they use, and they did a great job, because it was the talk of the town all across the United States of America. But right now, we're taking people away from their families and putting them on a border. Are they going to miss Thanksgiving for a political stunt? And that really bothers me. You know, we talk about how we support our veterans, but this is not how you take care of our servicemen and women. That's not how it's done.
So I wanted to show that, as it gives you an example of how Ojeda is willing to attack Donald Trump. Now, again, he's running as a Democrat. Obviously, he should be attacking Donald Trump. But I think people have this idea. I mean, when they hear somebody from West Virginia who voted for Trump, it's like there's this automatic switch thinking, oh, they're pro-Trump. They're not going to bother. They're not going to attack him. They're not going to go after. But that's just not true. This is, all of the evidence since Ojeda's vote for Trump in 2016, everything Ojeda is saying now, to me, shows you that he is willing to attack Trump, I think in many cases more so than other candidates, because he is able to do it in a way that is vicious and oftentimes relatable to everyone else at home who is also really angry at Trump. So there are going to be candidates out there that are going to be a little softer on Trump, are going to not necessarily softer in terms of how they approach his policies in terms of disagreeing with what Trump is doing, but soft in terms of their language. And when you're soft in terms of your language, I can see it hitting people the wrong way. People might see that and think, oh, this is just a politician. They're just attacking Trump because they're going after him. But look at the economy. The economy's doing great. Trump's doing great. But if you have Ojeda, who voted for Trump and is now critiquing Donald Trump and what Donald Trump is doing, critiquing him on specific policies, like putting troops at the border because of this caravan that is not a danger to anybody, And as Ojeda said, was not discussed at all or barely at all since the election, because it was obviously used as a way to incite fear in conservative voters. But when you have Ojeda, who is not only willing to go on the specifics and say what is wrong with Trump specifically, but also hit him viciously, then that sets you apart from other candidates on the stage. Now, again, I'm not saying I support Ojeda. I don't support anyone specifically right now in the midterm or in the primary for in 2020, unless Bernie runs. I mean, if Bernie Sanders runs, yeah, I support him. So I could say that, but everyone else has to prove themselves to me. But let me show you this last clip here, because this last clip really gives you an example of what Ojeda is willing to say.
And just tactically, the way you've addressed Donald Trump, there are some people, there are almost two camps who say a lot of people ignored him in the midterm elections. They believe that worked. Just talk about the economy, talk about health care. And then there's another camp that says in 2020, you've got to be combative. You got to play Trump's game. You got to fight the way he fights, get in the mud with him. What would be your approach to the president?
Now, I'm going to say I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. But we're not going to be able to beat this guy by being nice. You know, he's not nice. The Republican Party's not nice. You know, it's like we got to stop fighting a battle where our enemy is wearing brass knuckles and we're carrying a pillow. It's time to knuckle up.
Senator Ojeda, it's a pleasure to meet you. Good luck with your run. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again.
I just love that. It's time to knuckle up. After talking about how Trump brings brass knuckles, but we're bringing pillows. I mean, this is the kind of language that the winning candidate needs to use. So whoever goes up against Trump in 2020, they need to be vicious like this. I think this is really, I mean, just strategically, most Americans do not like Donald Trump. They do not support Donald Trump. So why would you want somebody who's going to be kind to him? Why would you want somebody who's going to fall into Trump's game and allow Trump to set the terms of the discussion? No, you set the terms of the discussion as the person who is better than Donald Trump. You make him play your game. You go after him viciously, not just on specific policies, but with your language, with comments like this. So this is what Ojeda brings to this race. Now, again, I don't think he's the perfect candidate. I think being a state senator is, and not somebody already in Congress, is going to hurt him. He doesn't have experience on the national scale. That's a negative. He did vote for Donald Trump. That's a negative, especially in the Democratic primaries. He didn't support issues like Medicare for all in his race, but I think he would be open to them. But these are all issues. So Ojeda is not the perfect candidate, but he does bring there are aspects of him that other candidates have to look at and think, you know what? Ojeda is right about this. His strategy around this is correct. His instinct is correct. His fight is correct. Now, if other candidates can bring a little bit of that and be genuine about it and come from a place of not taking corporate PAC money, come from a place of not taking any big donor money, come from a place of actually having a history of relating to real people on the ground and pushing certain policies forward. I mean, again, if Bernie ran, I think Bernie should win. It's Bernie's nomination. But if Bernie does not run, Ojeda should definitely, I think, at least be in the discussion. So there are a lot, even if you don't like Ojeda, I think there's a lot that other candidates can learn from him to defeat Trump in 2020.